But my presentation, my little talk is about safeguarding children online. So children are very easy to track online. That's the bottom line. Same with adults, same with organizations. So before we look into this, we need to look into, well, let's just talk about a hacker. How would a hacker get information about an organization just so he can hack it? Well, he would look online. He would use Google, he would use social media, much like how an online predator could target a child. They could use their social media accounts, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook. They could even use their Xbox Live, their PlayStation accounts to gain more information. Now, we need to have a bit of due diligence here about how much we're sharing with how much our child is sharing online. Because if we share too much information, we might be, painting too much of a picture, which could make that child a bit more of a target. So a great concern is that over the past 15 years, the internet has exploded. The youth of today have such access to the internet that is unprecedented. We've not seen before. You have smart watches, you have all these different smart devices now that just connect to the internet, and they have information on the child. I know you might say, oh, well, if it's just a heartbeat sensor, it's not very good information. But what if their username had their last name in and their date of birth? That's critical information that we could potentially use, or a hacker or threat actor could use to paint a picture on that child. So I'm going to go through a few points about my top tips to help secure your child and give them a better, safer experience online. Because while the internet is a very good resource for learning, playing games and having fun, it also has a dark side. And so if we can mitigate that dark side, and we can have a better experience for our child. So when you're using online accounts, whether it be Snapchat, whether it be Instagram, even Xbox Live and PlayStation, use a fake name, something that doesn't relate to the child. If you use real names or give excessive information in the usernames, you're going to be painting a bit of a target on that child. To give you an example, I've actually managed to find a person online from their Xbox Live name because it had their date of birth and their favorite football club and their last name in. And I used that information to find their location, just using open source intelligence, which is use of open source information that's freely available on the web. And that paints a picture on someone. Just to let you know that I did have the consent of the person, so I wasn't doing it maliciously. Another thing to bear in mind is how many accounts they have, and periodically review them. So just have a look at how much information they have available. Make sure they've got the right privacy settings on. So a normal person can't just look at it and get all the information. They have to be connected to them to see the information. So just limit what information can be seen on that child or target. Now, a lot of these points are going to vary depending on the age of the child, because some might have a bit more responsibility and a bit more privilege than a child that's a little bit younger. A good little tip as well, which I always tell parents, is just to engage in general chats with the child. See what they tell you. They might, give you a bit more information about what they're doing, or even just sit down and play the games with the child, because then you can see what they're doing. I know it may be a little bit boring for some people, but just sit there, just have a little look, get a feel for what they're doing, and use your judgment to say, is that safe? And this next point it's a little bit dependent on the age of the child. So if they're a little bit older, this may not be applicable, but the younger children, this may certainly be applicable. So just review the chats. So whatever chats they're having online, whether it be Facebook, whether it be Snapchat, Instagram, any other social media or any other platform that allows you to engage in chats, just ensure you know what's actually being said, who they're talking to, and just make sure you can validate that person on the other end. Because the wonderful thing about the internet is you could be anonymous, and so can the bad guys. They could be anonymous too. They can have these fake accounts and pretend to be someone that they're not. Another thing as well, and this is a bit more technical, I didn't want to be too technical about this whole presentation, but malware. So malware is malicious software. So we all hear about viruses, we hear about Trojans, they're the common ones. But what people don't realize is a lot of these are actually built to steal information. Now, if you haven't got the relevant amount of protection on your device, these malware can extract sensitive information or user information, keystrokes that could, leak passwords from the computer. Now, if we install antivirus software and keep it up to date and keep your device up to date as well, using the operating system updates, so the Microsoft periodic updates. So if you press the Windows key and check for updates, you can then update your device. I'm not too sure about Mac, but just keep yourself updated, have antivirus software, and protect your device from malware, because then that will cover you in terms of if any malicious software could extract that information. So when we're using more unique devices such as gaming consoles, such as smartwatches, it's really good just to have a look at the manufacturer's manual and understand what kind of privacy settings, what kind of safety settings you can have on this. So I've actually had a look on my Xbox Live account before, and I looked at the privacy settings, and they have a plethora or a myriad of controls that you can put in place that can just absolutely limit how much information is out there, to the point where people just see your gamer tag and no other information. And you're not stopping your child from playing a game, but you are stopping other people seeing too much information, which is really, really good. Another tip as well is content filtering. So this might be, you might need some specialist software for this, but you can certainly install it. So content filtering, it protects your child from accessing certain content on the internet or downloading certain content. It would identify that this is a nefarious activity or something that's not required by your child, or you don't want them to go there. This content filter can then block that communication and stop your child from visiting these sites. Another thing that I want to touch about, and I've seen this it's quite common now, I've seen this quite a lot, is we have this term, that the dark web. Now the dark web is a real place. It's a place on the internet which you can't normally get to without specialist software, where nefarious activity happens. Now, it's so easy for a child to Google how to get on the dark web, and then all of a sudden they're given guides, they're given YouTube videos, and they can get there. So we need to go and search these devices and make sure they haven't got the software installed. And the most popular software for this is called Tor, or the Tor browser, or the Onion router. If this has been downloaded, I recommend to uninstall that and block it from being installed again. Now, you might be saying, oh, how do I block that from being installed? If you give a laptop to your child, I recommend putting an administrator account on it. So that's an account where if you need to install a piece of software, you require these admin privileges to be able to install that software. But if the parent can then make that administrator account, their child can use that laptop, not install dangerous software, and not change any settings of the computer, which will allow them to download the software. So that's good to have an administrator account. So I know the internet can be a big scary place, and it has a lot of nefarious and dangerous aspects about it. But if we're just wary and we test the waters, so to speak, before we take the plunge, we can give the children a safe and comfortable and productive experience of the internet. So as the old saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. Now, we can protect that cat by just doing our due diligence part and protecting our children. And I'm willing to offer free advice and help on anyone that wants to protect their children online. And that really concludes my message here on protecting children online.